Spywatch by Derek Farmer.
Chapter 1. Sent Away. Norman Starkey was leaving home. His mother was sending him away. He didn't want to go, but he had to. It was wartime. Planes were bombing the cities. Children were being sent to the countryside. It was safer there. Norman didn't care. He wanted to stay with his mother in the city. He wasn't afraid, even when a bomb destroyed their house. But Mrs. Starkey had had enough. "It's just too dangerous here," Mrs. Starkey told Norman. "You've got to go." That afternoon, Norman was sent off to the country. Mr. Jenkins, the village postman, picked him up from the railway station. Mr. Jenkins had to find somewhere for the city children to stay. These children were called evacuees. Mr. Jenkins took Norman and another evacuee named Mary Parker to Westbourne Hall. Westbourne Hall was a large country house with lots of rooms. Mr. Granger and Miss Millington were the only people living there, but Mr. Granger didn't want evacuees. "This is not a children's home," he said. "I won't have any evacuees at all." "Then I'll have to report you," Mr. Jenkins told him. That made Granger change his mind. "All right, I'll take the girl," he said. Miss Millington took Mary upstairs. Mr. Jenkins put Norman back in the car. It was getting late, and he still had to find somewhere for Norman to spend the night. He decided to try Mrs. Hobbs at Wells Farm. Mr. Jenkins knocked at the door. As soon as Mrs. Hobbs saw Norman, she hurried him inside. "Let's get him fed before he wastes away," she said. Mrs. Hobbs already had one evacuee, but she let Norman stay as well. "Call me Auntie Amy," she said. She gave Norman his supper and showed him upstairs to bed. Dennis, the other evacuee, wasn't there. Mrs. Hobbs thought he'd run away, but Norman found him sleeping under the bed. "That's where I sleep at home," Dennis told Amy. "Bombs can't get you there." At Westbourne Hall, Miss Millington was arguing with Granger. "We don't want anybody snooping around," she told him. "She's just a kid," Granger replied. "You can take care of her." Miss Millington went up to Mary's bedroom. She tried to frighten Mary. "I hope you're not afraid of ghosts," she said. "Just stay in bed and you'll be all right." Mary lay in bed. She didn't like Westbourne Hall. Granger and Miss Millington didn't want her there, but she had to stay. She turned over and tried to sleep. Dennis and Norman were already asleep. Suddenly, there was a noise. Norman sat up and listened. There it was again. He wasn't imagining it. Something was tapping at the bedroom window.